Do you feel your bones start to shake? Do you feel the earthquake? Do you feel your bones start to shake? Do you feel the earthquake? Do you feel your bones start to shake? Do you feel the earthquake? Do you feel your bones start to shake? Do you feel the earthquake?
Yeah. You respect.
But that's alright.
Yo guys, what is up? Moxsy on Borderlands 3 video, and today we're going over BORESPLOSION Zane, a Zane build that uses Eraser to cause crazy cascading waterfall effects of just explosive damage, screen-wide nukage. It's really cool. I've been working on it during the Will It Eraser series, which if you guys haven't seen, you should definitely check it out. Not only do I have the build for you guys today, but I also have the top 10 weapons that work well with Eraser, because I've tested just about all of them. I hope you guys do enjoy the video. If you do, be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out. And with that, guys, let's get right into it. So for the format of this video, we're going to talk about the top 10 weapons to use with it, the mechanics, and the gear, and then we'll get into the skill tree, and there should be a little bar at the bottom so you can navigate to the part of the video that you want. Now, I've explained this before, but quick refresher, Eraser is Zane's basically bore skill. That's why we're calling it BORESPLOSION, where critical hits pierce through enemies for all weapons, dealing increased damage for every enemy pierced. Now, what's interesting and what makes this skill so powerful, and I would say way powerful than bore, is that when this new projectile is created that pierces, that's the pierced projectile, it is going to reapply all of your splash damage increases and all of your splash damage increases. It'll reapply those, it double dips in them. Now, I've mentioned this before. I didn't really talk about because it wasn't important at the time. This also reapplies all of your V1 and your V2 damage. Basically, all of the damage that you're doing and all of this damage that you're putting into your original shot before it crits is going to be then double dipped, triple dipped, and quadruple dipped if you have enough splash radius on your gear so that you can cause screen-wide nukage with relatively crappy weapons as long as they have splash damage and splash radius on them. All these things are going to be reapplying, and there's certain weapons that have decent splash radius and splash damage to cause these cascade effects where you can just do crazy things. Now, the biggest part of this build in using with the Eraser is the Hustler class mod. I've got a god roll here, but the Hustler, when you damage an enemy with a non-critical hit, grants Zane a stacking increased critical damage and a 5% chance for non-critical hits to score a critical hit, which consumes all stacks. This skill stacks 5 times. Now, the reason the Hustler is so important here is, one, we need these big splash damage dealing area of effect weapons to crit, and all of their area of effect damage can crit when we're using the Hustler. This means that when we shoot one of these splash weapons and it crits, it's going to then spawn new projectiles that get even bigger radius, and then that radius can crit, and if that increased radius crits, then it causes another radius explosion that has even bigger radius and even more damage. You can see where this is going. Basically, the waterfall cascade effect of BORESPLOSION or Eraser explosion, whatever you want to call it, that leads to ordinary weapons causing ridiculous damage and nuking true takedowns with like minimal effort. Now, the rest of the gear I'll go over, but I do want to talk about the top 10 weapons to use with this build. So the top 10 weapons to use with this build should be showing on screen. Now, you'll note number 1 is the root. I personally just don't like using the root. It's been done before. It's not fun. The fun for me in this build is using these like considered crappy weapons and making them really shine. So we have the root at number 1. I've tested the yellow cake. It's insane at level 57. It's going to be godly at 65. The Globetrotter is next at 3. The Creamer at number 4 is a personal favorite of mine just because I've never used the Creamer in any build before, and it's amazing here. The Recursion is number 5. Done it in Ricochet Wizard. Don't use it on this build. The Kong is crazy strong. The Shocker is my second personal favorite just because it's a shotgun that genuinely is not that good unless you're using it with this build and causing these Eraser BORESPLOSION things. The Nukem is crazy strong, not as strong as some of the other rocket launchers listed up there. The Jericho, not the strongest thing, but also ridiculously fun to use. And then the Anarchy just works really well. I prefer using the rocket launchers and the splash shotguns with this build the most. Next up, we need to talk about the other pieces of gear. So the big part of understanding this build and how to use it so you don't kill yourself is knowing how to not kill yourself. And the first part of that is our immunity to our own damage from duct tape mod. Now, this will protect you from damage that you deal that is not dot damage. And what I mean by that is if you like have a fire ASC on your weapon and you shoot your weapon and it causes a fire dot, that fire dot will kill you. So we're going to be sticking to 3 elements on this build, and that is, well, non-elemental, radiation, and cryo. Those are the things to use with this. Now, all radiation damage we can stop with the red suit shield. The red suit shield is one of 2 immunity shields. And when we're using something like the Globetrotter or the Jericho, we're going to use a red suit shield with ASE radiation and it's pissed with on grenade throw. That way we can shoot this thing all we'd like and we'll never kill ourselves because we're immune to all the radiation damage, but we're only doing radiation damage through this. If I wanted to use the Shocker and its crazy radius, I would put on a Transformer with ASE shock and its piss on grenade throw with shock damage. You can see that I'm changing my elements that I'm using on my build to just be 1 element. We're typically only doing 1 element at a time. Now for something like the Creamer, which is non-elemental, you can use cryo. And this is where things can get really fun. As long as you're only doing cryo damage, since cryo damage does not dot, it does not have a dot form, you can use something like a Creamer with ASE Splash and then an Infernal Wish, which will give you extra projectiles and put on cryo damage on that. If I was to use, for example, the Infernal Wish with a Jericho, because I don't have red immunity on the Wish, it would hurt me and I would die. So using the Infernal Wish with some of these weapons on this list, like, for example, a Cryo Major Kong, because I have immunity to Major Kong, or through cryo, through duct tape mod, I can use a Major Kong and an Infernal Wish and then shoot extra Major Kongs, and that's where this can get even crazier. But there's 3 shields that we're using. I know it's a little bit complicated. The Infernal Wish for non-elemental cryo damage, the red suit to protect against radiation damage, and then the Transformer to protect against shock damage. Whatever kind of weapon you're feeling, whatever thing you want to use, I recommend that. Just know that if you, for example, shoot a Jericho while wearing a Transformer and it's radiation Jericho, you are going to die and kill yourself, and that's no fun, as I literally just killed myself because I took off the shield and I dotted myself. So yeah, example A. Didn't mean to do that, but yeah, I took off the shield. That was giving me immunity, and now I'm dead. One more thing I wanted to point out before we get into the skill tree is for your anointments, you're going to be wanting to rock 200 Splash. It doesn't add any extra elements that you have to be worried about killing yourself with, and it is going to be reapplying every single time that your eraser reapplies. Also, this save file is chock full of weapons that work from like mildly well with eraser to like really well. But all of these weapons in this save file benefit from eraser, even the Porta Pooper 5000. That's right, I tested the Porta Pooper 5000. These are all good eraser weapons, all good options, and the save file will be in my Discord, which will be in the description if you guys want to join and download the save file. All right, let's move on to the skill tree. So the skill tree should be showing on screen now. We're going to start off with Purple Tree. We don't really need accuracy. We're just firing splash damage into the air. Deja vu when we're only using rocket launchers is nice because we're critting a bunch and it'll help us maintain our ammo, commitment, cooldown rate, gun damage, fugitive, so you can sprint. All of the damage that you're going to be putting into your first shot is going to be reapplying. So you want your shot that you're shooting into a racer to have as much damage as you can. And that's part of the reason why I use a toboggan. I didn't mention this earlier, but the toboggan's going to amp that damage and give you extra damage, and then when you shoot it, and that amp damage that's already increasing your damage then gets eraser, stupid things happen, lots of damage happens. So being able to just like sprint around and slide and shoot and get that extra damage for eraser is just really, really nice. Dominant effect, reload speed, fire rate. Art of War, we just don't need it. You could get a little bit of extra damage. I just like having the reload speed and fire rate depending on what weapon I'm using. Sheer will, just trying to get 3 in eraser. And then Arman Flint. Arman Flint is really nice here. We already need to go all the way down to eraser, but when you aim down sights and shoot these things, you're just going to get all of that damage over and over and over again of Arman Flint. So good stuff there. Cold Bore, swap speed, extra damage for bossing if you really want it, or if you want to swap between weapons. Violent momentum, violent speed, like I said. move around when you're shooting, you'll see big dividends on your shots because you just see that damage cascading. Playing dirty is way more important here than violent violence, and we're getting decent fire rate from domino effect. Good misfortune, 3 out of 3. I like 3 out of 3 when I'm not using Seeing Dead. When I'm using Seeing Dead, you only need 1 point here. When you're using 3 out of 3 Good Misfortune, you can keep up your things. In terms of your action skill, you only need the Mantis Shoulder Cannon. Honestly, like, if you want to rock Barrier, if you want to rock Sentinel, Digiclone, that's fine. The biggest thing that sucks with this build is you're using a Hustler, so if you're going to fight for your life, it's hard to get out of fight for your life. Zane's fight for your life damage is terrible, so you want to try to stay alive, whatever helps you the most. I like using Sentinel, honestly, just because I don't have to worry about it, and I'm immune to my damage. I don't find the Barrier, like, really helps me too much, but it is really nice to have that Barrier up just a little bit extra damage, and you can keep it up pretty easily with 3 out of 3 Good Misfortune, so really up to you and what you find the best. Deathfall is close. We need this, obviously. Big damage, big duration bonuses. For immuneness, we need the extra magazine size. It's nice for our big rocket launchers. Borrowed time to keep up those action skills if you are using shield or drone. And then duct tape mod. We need this point. It's going to give us immunity to cryo damage and self-splash damage of non-elemental. So really, really important to have that. And yeah, guys, that is it for the build. Basically, slide, shoot, aim. Some of these weapons do have a little bit of a skill, I guess. I'm not really sure exactly what to call it, but you need to know where to aim to consistently get these erasers, and it's different for each weapon. For example, the Creamer, you want to shoot in between enemies and have its first explosion blow up and hit enemies, and then all of the projectiles that travel past that explosion will then be applied with eraser. The Shocker, and a lot of these other weapons that don't do these crazy ricochets, you want to like shoot down on enemies, because the secondary splash explosion that happens after it passes through, the secondary explosion is going to do way more damage than hitting them initially with the weapon. So you're trying to hit them with the weapon and shoot it down so that they get crit, but then the explosion hits the floor and they're basically getting double tapped by one shot, or one shot through them. So each weapon that you're going to be using with this is used a little bit differently. The Major Kong, sliding and shooting it into enemies. It is different. Also, the Shrieking Devil works really well with this. You can just like crit things, and then the whole explosion will get eraser with the Shrieking Devil. Really cool things that it just takes some practice to get used to using some of these weapons, and the best way to get them to consistently eraser. But I promise you, it'll pay off, guys. That is it for the video. I hope I didn't go too long. I will catch y'all in the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.
I was putting in the